Dean Curry here, Fantasy Football RSVP. So let's get right to it with Week 10 of the waiver wire. Let's start with quarterbacks. I really like Jimmy Garoppolo. 4 touchdowns. Really doing well. Jimmy Garoppolo. He's been coming on. He's got Sanders now with the offense. I really like what's going on there. 4 touchdowns. Looks like he's starting to throw the ball a little bit, which was a concern because they don't really need to throw the ball that much to be, to win, because they win with defense. Their running game is so effective. But he's taking more chances down the field, which a lot of people thought would happen with Sanders. And now that he has that going, I could kind of really see that, materializing. And he's a good quarterback. He's got a good arm. They're a tough team, the 49ers. I don't think there's really a lot that needs to be said. I just think he's trending in the right direction. I still think there will be games, though, that they win with their defense and their running game, and it will limit the passing a little bit. So you might just kind of want to pick your spots, especially if they're playing, a team that's not very good. They're probably going to rely on their running game a lot more. And, these things kind of happen. I know people like playing, quarterbacks when they're playing a really soft team. I get asked this question a lot by clients. And, they're like, let's play this quarterback because they're playing the Dolphins, or what have you, or something to that effect. And you got to kind of be careful, because what happens in a lot of those games, which a lot of people don't know or forget, is, and you have to kind of take an intelligent approach about it, is in a lot of those games, maybe not like the last couple of weeks with Miami, because they jumped out to a little lead against not so great football teams, but normally they're behind, Miami. And the teams that are playing them are actually up, and usually they're up big. And typically what happens in those types of games is they protect their lead by, running the ball and taking time off the clock. And so it doesn't always pan out if you're playing a softer team. And I'm not against Miami. They've had great teams and stuff. I'm just using the word softer team because they're not playing great football right now. And you got to be careful there, because quarterbacks will sometimes start off pretty good, but then they rely on the running game or the short passing game, which a lot of people don't know as well. They're not going to really try to stretch. They'd rather get a 12-yard pass if they're up by 2 or 3 touchdowns. They'd rather, if they do pass the ball, they're going to make it a short pass. And that doesn't help fantasy numbers, because they don't want chunk yardage a lot of times, because then they give the ball right back to the other team. That's kind of what they're, trying not to do. So you got to be careful, when you play, quarterbacks against soft defenses or soft or teams that are not playing well. Okay, so blowout victories mostly. I've been talking for a number of weeks now, and I just want to add, most of the advice that I give is PPR related. So you're just going to have to adjust it to standard. I don't make 2 videos, one for standard, one for PPR. Obviously, the adjustments you make are in receptions. If it's half point PPR or full point PPR, you just adjust the numbers, accordingly. But most of the advice, and almost entirely the advice I'm giving, is based on PPR, which you could still, take the advice and, do that. But when it comes to certain matchups and things of that nature, you have to, understand, unless, you're a client, and of course you're letting me know that it's a standard league and we're speaking directly to one another. But if you're just listening to the videos, they're mostly PPR based. And a lot of the leagues are going to PPR. anyway, because it adds an extra dimension to the league. And so it's kind of nice to play that way. But one player I've been mentioning for weeks now, and when I first started mentioning, got some little bit of blowback from it, is Derek Carr. And, I mentioned him weeks ago, and I told people I expect his numbers to be formidable in the coming weeks, and they have been. Not surprised by it at all, because, the Raiders are a good football team. It's too bad it didn't work out with Antonio Brown, because, if he was on that team, they could be a really good football team. But their defense, their running game, an underrated defense, mind you, their running game, their receivers, Derek Carr's been playing well. He's been very consistent. And I think he's a great fantasy option, of course, depending on the week. But he's been playing really well, and, you have to consider him at this point. The guy's throwing, for almost 300 yards, 2 touchdowns almost every game, And the team is just starting to play really well. Jacobs is going, Williams, I just think they're a good football team. Not super great, but definitely a good football team. So it's a good option that you might want to look at. As far as running backs, we're going to move through these pretty quickly. It looks like Ronald Jones is the starter in Tampa Bay. I don't think a lot needs to be said. They have a decent running game on the team, and Ronald Jones has been pretty favorable, and they stretch the field really well with the passing game. So it opens up the running game a little bit, and it looks like it's hard to predict on this team. At times the way they're going from Barber to Jones, but and we've said this before, but now it looks like the coach gave an endorsement saying he felt Jones deserves the role of the starter. So hopefully, we'll see what happens. Hopefully that means that Jones will be more consistent, reliable moving forward. Another running back that I wasn't totally high on weeks ago, because I just kind of wanted to wait and see. But if you're in a PPR league, it's getting to the point where you have to strongly consider Jamal Williams. He may possibly be on a team already, but, I'm also, if that's the case, if Connor's out, you could try to go with Trey Edmonds. But, because Samuels is kind of catching the ball more. But Jamal Williams, 6 for 39. This guy's getting 5-6 receptions, and he's getting, a number of carries each game. And Aaron Jones has a history problem with injuries, an injury history problem. He's probably his reckless style of running. But, Jamal Williams has got to be considered a roster spot on your team. And I mention him. I usually don't mention players that I think might be on teams already on these videos, but it's amazing how much he's available in a lot of the leagues of clients I speak to. So certainly you might want to consider picking him up and putting him on your team. He's been producing in PPR, and that's pretty much that. As far as wide receivers are concerned, we have some injury concerns with T.Y. Hilton. Zach Pascal is probably, he's probably a good pickup, at this point. Reliable, good offense. It doesn't look like Jacoby is going to be out long. He might even play this weekend, but the offense is pretty good, even with the backup. So I kind of like that play. Probably T.Y. with his injury. I'm also a rehabilitation specialist, as a licensed massage therapist and certified personal trainer, and for my sports management company. And I know a thing or two about injuries. I don't think T.Y. will be out that long, maybe a couple of weeks. I like Jamison Crowder as well with Sam Darnold. He's really got fantastic chemistry with him together. And before the season started, it was one of my sleeper picks. It's too bad, you can't predict Darnold's going to get mono, but it looks like they're starting to pick it up again. Jamison Crowder, and a lot of people may ask me about him and Robbie Anderson. I kind of like Crowder more. He seems to get a lot more targets, a better route runner. I do like the way Robbie, stretches the field and the speed, but I think Crowder will be the more reliable, safer option. Seems to get more targets as well. So at tight end, I like Mike Gesicki of the Dolphins. He had a good week last week. I think it was 6 for 95. I think it's a nice play, Mike Gesicki, because the Dolphins are usually behind, and it lends itself to using the passing game, a little bit more, and Fitzmagic tends to really like to spread the ball around. I mean, he always has. And he is a gunslinger. He's going to throw that football, and they're going to be behind. So I think it's a really nice play. I'm going on the anti-Miami train again. I've been doing it all year, and anti-Redskins as well. And I think the Colts defense, which is available in a lot of people's leagues, if you could get your hands on them, I think it's, even though Miami's playing a little bit better now, they beat, the Jets, but, they look decent against the Steelers, and the Steelers are now 4-4. And, they've actually, last number of games, even before that, they're starting to show a little chemistry with Fitzpatrick, so he's kind of given them a spark and really throwing the ball. I mean, they lost a, good receiver, Williams, this week, so I really like the Colts against the Miami. I like that Michael Badgley is back with the Chargers. I mean, I think he missed like one field goal last year in 2018 campaign, and the Chargers, look like they're waking up a little bit with the new offensive coordinator. I had mentioned, picking up Melvin Gordon to a lot of people. They didn't listen to me. A lot of people didn't listen to me, but that's okay. A lot of times, that's how you learn. And I told them that they wanted to get back to the power running game. It's not something I made up. It was something that the coaches talked about during the firing and getting a new offensive coordinator. And when you think power running game, it's not Austin Eckler. It's going to be Gordon, and they look like a different team. I was actually surprised, by their performance, because their defense has been playing awful all year, and then they put up a stellar performance against Green Bay, and Rodgers had a rough day, against the Chargers, and which is quite surprising because everyone's been running all over the Chargers defense, but I guess they just woke up. So as far as that's concerned, I really like Michael Badgley, so I think that's a really nice play. Okay, so as far as that's concerned, that's for your kicker. And I want to wish everyone the best in Week 10. Things are really picking up. Make your playoff, run right now if you can. A lot of you are in really good position. So have yourself a wonderful day.